Welcome to episode 46 of the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Today we ask the question, what do you really need? We're continuing to experience a new normal in the era of COVID-19. We're being asked to shelter in place, schools and businesses are shutting, and we're experiencing an unprecedented global crisis. I was recently reminded of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a theory of what is necessary for each person to become the best versions of themselves. In this podcast, we talk about that hierarchy of needs. We discuss, why do you really need to know about your needs? What are the 5 questions you can ask yourself daily to see what you need? What action can you take now to make sure that you're meeting your needs in the time of COVID-19? Let's get started. Welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I am Kim McLaughlin, your host. I am a licensed psychotherapist, motivational speaker, blogger, and author. I help people when they're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and overloaded, and it shows up in overeating and over dieting. Just to give you a little context of where we're at, we continue to be in the time of the coronavirus, which is also known as COVID-19. And in my state of California, we continue to be asked to shelter in place. So my family has been in our house for a week now, and we go out to take walks, we go out to the store, and we come back home. That's really all we've done. It's been a very interesting time to live in and to do the very best that we can. Been blessed that my husband has been able to work from home. I've been able to work from home using telehealth, which is a form of using a virtual connection where I connect with my clients and talk with them about what's going on for them. I gotta say, it's been interesting to hear stories about what's going on for people. And even though this podcast is about food and body image, we're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about a lot of other areas. I'll often tell you that we talk about food, but we don't talk about food, and that it's about the food, but it's not about the food. And today it's about the food, but it's not about the food. And I think you'll get clearer on that as we talk more about the topics. I was recently on a call with my business coach, and we were talking about the idea of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He wrote an article back in 1943 called A Theory of Human Motivation, and he talked about these needs that we have. My business coach talked about using those hierarchy of needs in terms of this crisis situation in our world right now with COVID-19, and she really reframed it in terms of the needs of businesses at this point in time. And I thought that was really fascinating that she was able to use this really foundational information, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. She was able to use it in terms of businesses, which made me think about, why can't we use Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of what's going on in all of our lives in terms of COVID-19? We are experiencing lots of turmoil on a daily basis. Really, it's a moment to moment. What's the latest information? What do we need to do? It can be a time of lots of news and lots of information and lots of misinformation, which can lead us all to feel more scared and anxious. We've been talking each week about the whole COVID-19 situation and talking a lot about the feelings and what we can do differently. This is a different way of looking at our needs, and I want to present this idea of using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What he said in his theory is that there are 5 basic categories of needs: physiological, safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization. The way I've seen it put together is it's really a pyramid. And at the bottom of the pyramid is your physical needs. And so that's the biggest part of the pyramid. It's really the foundation. And I'll often say that is our are your foundational needs being met? And that's really that physiological need at the bottom of the pyramid. So if you think about the pyramid being split into 5 sections, moving up from the bottom to the top, so your physical needs are first, your needs for safety are second, your need for love is third, esteem is fourth, and self-actualization is fifth. So it goes up the pyramid, and the areas get smaller and smaller as you move up higher and higher. But you've got to have that foundation first, or it's harder to go up that pyramid. What he talked about before was really needing to have your needs met on each level, and that each level were kind of separate and distinct, and that you needed to progress through each one in order to get to the next. There's later research that shows that, or kind of really expanded on his theory, and show that you can work on different levels of your needs at the same time. So it's not so distinct as how I learned it, but it's more fluid, and it can then help us determine what's going on for each of ourselves at this point in time. So the hierarchy of needs, I think, would be good if we went into what they were. If you want to look back on on Abraham Maslow's original article, A Theory of Human Motivation, it is in the show notes of this podcast. So feel free to go back and look. There are lots of articles, there are lots of books written about it, because it's really a foundational psychological principle that all of us therapists use and talk about as being valuable for us all to kind of remember and keep in the back of our mind. When Maslow talks about the hierarchy of needs, they're really in order. And so I'm going to start in order, and then we can talk about how they kind of mix and match together. The first need is the physical need. And that makes a lot of sense, that if you start on that lower level of the pyramid that we're talking about, the biggest level is the need for your physiological needs to be met. Those are things like food, sleep, warmth, water, shelter. These are really essential needs that we need to have in place in order to feel secure, in order to move up the rest of that pyramid. When we look at our physiological needs, you'll see that food is one of those basic foundational needs, which is why when we have issues with food, it's really all encompassing, because it is a foundational need that we have to have met. And if we feel that that need is not being met, we're going to feel uncomfortable, we're going to feel insecure and overwhelmed and anxious, really. What we've seen is the issues around food and water have been really huge for people at this point in time. Our local grocery continues to be out of lots of staples. And I've actually gone from grocery store to grocery store to try and find some staples, and they're just not there. There's also a lack of toilet paper still in our local markets. Over the last 2 weeks, I have found none, and I've been to quite a few different markets to see if there were any. I've heard that other people have been getting some, and I know that they're out there. It's just been interesting to see none in the store. The other essential that has not been in the stores is water, and people have been buying a lot of bottled water. I think there's a lot of concern that there won't be enough pure water, which is nothing I've ever heard. I don't hear in my city that I'm at that there's any concern about water or having enough water, but that fear comes up, and then people will go out and overbuy or buy because they're fearful around food, toilet paper, water, cleaning supplies. And that cleaning supply, I think, would also be part of that physiological basic need. When those needs are threatened, our foundation feels like it's really insecure or not secure, which has been going on in many of our lives for a couple of weeks and up to a couple of months. So that foundation being shook is getting harder and harder for us to deal with. So that's that foundation. When we move up to the second level up that pyramid, is once our physiological needs are met, then the next need that arises is the need for a safe environment. And that is where we feel safe and that we're not going to be hurt. And that's hurt emotionally or physically, that we feel secure. Our sense of safety has been shaken because we're not allowed to do the things that we want to do. We're not allowed to go out, or at least we're requested not to do it. There's no kind of martial law going on where we're going to be arrested or anything, but our real sense of safety in our world has been shaken. The third area that we have in as we move up from the first physiological need on the bottom of the scale, then next safety, then there's a need for love and belonging. And that third area in the pyramid is the feeling of feeling loved and having a sense of belonging and a sense of feeling connected and accepted. These needs of love and belonging are in the areas of romance, family, and friendship relationships. We have that feeling of a need for love for ourselves and feeling love towards another. That feeling of connection is such a huge need that has also been really shaken now. We're not able to get out and see people that we normally see. We're not able to go hug a family member that lives in a different house. And we're not able to have any kind of physical contact, or we're asked not to have that physical contact with people outside of our home. And that really shakes our sense of love and belonging because we're not able to be in community. What I found interesting is since we've not been able to have that sense of love and belonging, people have gone to interesting lengths to have that sense of community and love and belonging. I've seen friends have been talking about having a block party where everybody is on their mat and doing yoga, like in the middle of the street in a small part of a community where they're 6 feet apart, but they're still doing this activity together. In my gym, what we're doing is doing Zoom calls where our coach will be on the video and she'll see all of us and we're all doing our exercise and our movement together. It was really fun. I did it this morning with a class. I've actually done quite a few this last week. It was really fun and I felt connected. It felt weird doing the movements in my home when I'm used to doing them in the gym, but to see them, people that I know, people that I feel a sense of belonging with, seeing them do the exercises and movements and me doing it with them really felt good and I felt really connected with them. So even though I couldn't high five them or be in close proximity, we were able to do it over a video chat system on Zoom. And it felt like we were connected and it felt like we were part of a community. That need of feeling loved and belonging were really helped by my workout. We had a chance last week with our family and actually a group of my very, very close friends. We each did some Zoom calls together where we had this video conferencing. I could see all my friends. And when we did it with our family, we could see all our family and we were able to talk about what's going on, feeling connected in a way that's really different than just making a phone call or actually not talking to them. And it was interesting because these are people that we don't necessarily see all the time, but we all felt a call to really step out and see each other because we felt that need for love and belonging. So that was a really wonderful opportunity to feel that connection.
Hi, everyone. This is Kim, and my book is out. Feed Your Soul, Nourish Your Life, a 6-step system to peace with food is live. I recommend you get it. It has all my 6 components of feeding your soul, as well as my own story. Pick it up now. You can find it on my website at feedyoursoulunlimited.com. Thanks.
Moving up the hierarchy of needs, the fourth is the need for esteem. That need for esteem is really our need for feeling good about ourselves and good about who we are. That sense of esteem comes in 2 components, which Maslow talks about. One is feeling self-confidence and feeling good about yourself. So feeling really good about who you are and a sense of confidence. The second component in terms of esteem is feeling valued by others. The feeling that our achievement and our contributions have been recognized by other people. And so feeling esteem is when you feel like you're being seen and that what you offer is important. This can be trouble for people right now when we're not in our work situations, not in our community, because we're not necessarily getting that feedback that we matter and that we're important, and that building up of our self-esteem isn't necessarily happening. Obviously, there are lots of workarounds with that when we're having phone calls with friends, when we're doing Zoom calls where we can see each other, when we're doing FaceTime, where we can see each other and giving each other feedback and helping each other feel good about ourselves, then that sense of esteem gets higher. Lastly, the fifth area is the top point of that pyramid, and this is self actualization. It's the top of the pyramid because it's the one that we need all these other levels of the foundation to get, or the levels of the pyramid to get to that top feeling of self actualization. And when you're feeling self actualized, you feel fully fulfilled, that you've lived up to your potential. Self actualization is really personal, and knowing when you've got more self actualization is something you get to decide for yourself. I don't get to tell you what that looks like. And it's very personal, and I think it can change over time about that feeling. It's also something that rarely people reach it. I was reading an article where they were talking about people like Mother Teresa or Gandhi or Jesus created and lived at that level of self actualization. I think we're always moving towards being self actualized, but we're not there constantly. We move in and out of that as we move up and down that pyramid. What we know is that we move through that hierarchy of needs, up that pyramid, up and down that pyramid at our own speed. And just because we might be on the level of esteem doesn't mean then that the needs of our foundation, our physiological needs, don't come as needing to be met later on. So you really move up and down the pyramid to see where your needs are. So how you progress through your hierarchy of needs is you progress at your own speed. You can go up and down the pyramid at varying points in times, and in certain times you can have some needs at each level being met, and it's not an all or nothing where you've just completed it and you move to the next level. It's really a more of a fluid flow up and down. What it means when you're in the process of looking at your hierarchy of needs is that you're getting in touch with your needs, you're learning more, you're being in touch with your inner knowing, and being in community and engaging in self contemplation. You don't need to fully meet your potential to move up. I was thinking of how we could use these hierarchy of needs in terms of meeting our needs now, given that everything feels shaky. I don't know about for you, but I've said this actually for weeks, and each week I say kind of the same thing, is the world feels shaky and it feels complicated and difficult. And I keep wanting to come back to what could work, what could help me feel more grounded. And I think using this hierarchy of needs is going to be a great opportunity. When I thought about what I could talk to you that you might do, is I came up with the idea of asking 5 different questions. And really, they're connected to each of the levels of the needs and seeing how you're feeling with those levels. So here are the questions. The first question is, are my basic physical needs for survival being met? Are my basic safety needs being met? Are my needs of love and belonging being met? Are my needs of esteem being met? Are my needs of self actualization being met? When you ask those questions, you can then determine, what do I need? I think a lot about my basic needs for survival. And when we start looking at each of these needs, if we start with the first question, are my basic physical needs for survival being met? I can ask those questions of myself. Do I have my need for water being met? Yes. Is the need for food being met? Yes. Is the need for warmth being met? Yes. Is my home And shelter, is it secure? And it's yes. My husband and I are able to work right now, so we don't have the fear of not being able to pay our mortgage right now. Some of you, that's not where you're at, and there is some fear about having enough money, paying your mortgage, paying your rent, paying for where you live is in jeopardy. And I honor that. So if that is the concern, then what could you do about it? If the need for shelter is a little shaky, then what could you do about that? And then that becomes more of a focus of being in action because you're asking yourself the right questions rather than saying, I just have an overall feeling of anxiety and fear and I don't know what's going on. When you start asking each of these questions, you can narrow in and give yourself some understanding about what you need. When we move on to the second area of safety and asking the question, are my basic safety needs being met? Am I feeling secure? And can I be safe? It's that emotional safety and also that physical safety. Physical safety requires that you're able to call the police and get assistance, that you're able to contact your neighbors if you need anything for your basic safety needs. Also, that need of our emotions being taken care of and asking the question, do I feel my emotions are being taken care of? You can do that through lots of different ways. We've been talking about that in lots of different podcasts recently about the fear and anxiety that's going on. And we've gotten some really great ideas in a couple of the previous podcasts. So I would suggest that you reach out or you connect with those earlier podcasts that talk about fear and anxiety. The third question is, are my needs of love and belonging being met? That's a tough one right now, given what's going on. But I told you some ideas of what I've had in terms of doing FaceTime or doing phone calls or doing a Zoom call where you can actually see people and feel connected to them. It's also a great time to reach out to people from your past in order to be reconnected. I found with some friends that I haven't seen in quite a while that having an opportunity to see them and reconnect with them was just exactly what I needed in terms of having my feeling of love and belonging met again. I've seen other times where my friends have been taking food. Actually, I've done this for my mom, is taking food over to her. We haven't been able to hug or be close, but I could at least make sure that she was being taken care of, which makes me feel the sense of love and belonging because I'm helping somebody else meet their needs. The fourth question that you can ask yourself is, are my needs of esteem being met? Am I feeling good about myself? This can be about maybe engaging in some learning. There's a lot of learning that's going on, or I should say free opportunities to learn. I've talked about this before with you could do some free classes. I've seen quite a few free classes that I have begun to get hooked up with to make myself feel better about myself, to increase that sense of esteem within myself, where I know that I am getting better within myself, or I'm actually being a better person because I'm knowing more about myself and the world around me. The fifth question is, are my needs of self-actualization being met? That is the highest level. I think it still gives us an opportunity to determine whether we are moving up to be in our highest potential, to be in that higher state of being. I think of that in terms of prayer and meditation and feeling grounded, feeling connected to the sense of spirit, to being connected to that greater sense of good. It's a place that I keep striving for, to be in touch with that kind of connection or be connected more often than not. So even if I'm trying to create more sense of safety on a different or be in a different level, I can still have that need for self-actualization and helping to move that need forward in a positive way. We always talk about doables in this podcast. What am I going to do differently? And I think you can really take on those 5 questions as daily questions of, are my needs for my physical needs, my safety needs, love and belonging needs, self-esteem needs and self-actualization needs, are they being met? And if they're not, what do I need to do? Because the more we connect with that pyramid of needs, that hierarchy of needs, we're then better able to feel grounded and secure and confident, which helps us release fear and anxiety. I know times are tough out there for a lot of you, and I honor that. I want you to know that I'm here and available to talk with you. I have a link in the show notes to schedule a time to talk with me one-on-one. I would love to talk with you, hear what's going on. You also can send me an email. It's also in the show notes links. I would love to hear how you're going or how you're doing. How are you moving through this? I really think we have the opportunity to not just survive through this time, but to thrive through it. I believe with all of my heart, there is opportunities for all of us to be in our greater good during this time. And I see so much outpouring of love, so much outpouring of belonging and feeling connected with others. It's such an opportunity, even in the time of some darkness in our global community. This is Kim McLaughlin with Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I look forward to bringing you fresh information next week. Go out and make it a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. We come to you every Monday with fresh new ideas to help you end emotional eating and put food in its proper place as nourishment. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and review it and let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us.